YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. We got the icon up on the screen now. I've got articles in this episode for you, and they are in no particular order. It all has to do with politics. We'll just jump right into them here. All these URLs are in the description of the video, of course, so that you can pull them up and do the things that you need to do. The very first one here is a petition. I wanted to put this out there for you in case you wanted to get in on this action. It is a petition to President Donald J. Trump, let's say it's Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to investigate and prosecute George Soros. Undersigned citizens of the U.S. sincerely believe our Republican form has been and is being assaulted by acts that are and have been calculated to overthrow the lawful government of the U.S., together with acts attempts to incite insurrection, create civil unrest, and otherwise interfere with our sovereign First Amendment exercise of free and honest form of self-government by George Soros, his accomplices, conspirators, co-conspirators, henchmen, associates, organizers, enablers, surrogates, thereof, including but not limited to Hillary Rodham Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, representatives of national intelligence, CIA, media, military, members of the U.S. Congress, and federal offices or officials. So if you want to sign that and get in on that action, right there is the URL in the description of this video. Where if you look down there in that little box and you push show more, I think it says, a whole bunch of URLs pop up, and right after it says video, this will be the very first one for you. The next one that I have here is off of PamelaGeller.com. The hamster to catch up to me here and get it up here on my screen for me. Poor little fella. As he can with only 3 legs. Here we go. Obama rushed in last minute to bring 900 Muslim migrants from Iran to the U.S. Story from a longtime resident of Guinea shows how seriously broken our immigration system is. In the media, President Trump's reforms, there will be catastrophe. There we go, in the United States. My mouth doesn't want to pronounce it. Pamela Geller is the president of the American Freedom Defense Initiative, one that put this out there so that this kind of story is going on here. There's that. I think there's more to it. If you want to click some links there, it'll take you further on into that article. But know that, yeah, his last minutes in office, he was signing such. The word that comes to my mind is that. Gracious. Years and last few minutes in office, he wants to push through a bunch of craziness. This next one's off of Zero Hedge. Exit beat the crowd. I'm bitterly divided. No matter who won the election, I predicted we would soon be reading about states wanting to secede from the Union. Trying to get this to scroll on up here. Poor little hamster. Even before President Trump was sworn in, known as CalExit began. The first step is to ask voters to adopt a state constitutional amendment revoking the U.S. Constitution as the supreme law. .org makes this appeal. Yes, California. As the sixth largest economy in the world, California is more economically powerful than France and larger than Poland. California compares and competes with countries, not just the 49 other states. Since 1987, California has been subsidizing other states at a loss of tens and sometimes hundreds of billions of dollars in a single fiscal year. In our view, the United States of America represents so many things that Californian values, and our continued statehood means California will continue subsidizing the other states and to the detriment of our children. The outline reasons why citizens should vote for secession is a bit different. California has some of the best universities, but in various ways our schools are among the very worst in the country, it says. Determine if the claim hundreds of billions of dollars is accurate. Is a post office or military base returning money back to the state? Creditloan.com indicates 78 cents back for every dollar it sends to the federal government. Maybe they have a point. Values causes divorce. Our founding fathers felt that the values of King of England, values of the colonies. Many Americans cheered the British on when they opted out of the European Union. Oppressive taxations, different values and costs, and control of central government was a motivating factor. Be careful what you wish for. Things are not all sunny in the land of milk and honey. Currently, the California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS, underfunded. The Mercury the Mercury News editorial, CalPERS again falls short of addressing deficit, has lowered the projected earnings estimates 0.5% down to 7% in 2019. They add one inconvenient truth, which is to understand how far short. Consider that CalPERS announced Wednesday that it hadn't hit a 7% average over the last 20 years, and going forward it estimates that there's only roughly a 1 in 4 chance that it will ever meet that target. It warns that the pension system should anticipate only an average of 6.2% in each of the next 10 years. That places the system shortfall at about $170, which averages more than $13,000 of debt for each California household. Vision of the secessionist movement overlook a major factor. The political class is predominantly socialist, redistributing wealth through progressive taxation and free programs to voters to maintain their power. If secession brings an economic windfall, it be spent. As Margaret Thatcher warned, the problem with socialism is you run out of other people's money. George Bernard Shaw said, "That robs Peter to pay Paul can always depend on the support of Paul." In many cases, Peter quietly moved away and took his money with him. Top professional golfer Phil Mickelson created quite a stir complaining about California taxes while putting his home up for sale. Better off staying quiet about his reasons. California Political Review reports moved from Orange County, California to Orange County, Florida. In the first year of that move, he saved $1 million in taxes. $1 million a year taken by government to live in California? Woods said no. Now it looks like about to make the same decision. He earns $60 million a year, north of $5 million a year to move to a free state like Florida or Texas. The New York Post reports billionaire David Tepper has moved from New Jersey to Florida, and the loss of his income tax could leave a $140 million hole. 40% of the state's revenue comes from a third which is collected from less than 1% of taxpayers, Jersey's wealthiest resident. It's not just the heavy hitters. When we We joined a local club. Each month and introduced themselves. We noticed a large number of Californians. While my survey is unscientific, I asked many why they moved. Mentioned how expensive California is to live. One former California remarked, there are a lot of California refugees in Arizona and Nevada. When they passed a state income tax, progressive, the top rate, 6%, kicks in at $7,000. I was in my peak earnings years and could live anywhere. I was an early immigrant. Georgia income tax, I realized our other taxes did not go down. What I did get back from the government for confiscating an additional 6% in my earnings. We quickly moved to Florida with no state income taxes. Florida is full of refugees fleeing other high tax states. The migration continues. In 2013, the Tax Foundation published a state migration calculator graphic, and there was the graphic is here in this article if you want to take a look at it. Very impressive. It says the high tax socialist states are losing billions in adjusted gross income, while states like Texas and Florida are growing. Washington State Examiner reports the trend is continuing and concludes in no income tax and right to work states was fueled largely by net domestic migration rather than international migration. Emphasis here to the 2016 census estimates. The landscape is changing. The election of President Trump sent shockwaves through much of the political class. Many public union pensions are woefully underfunded. Millions to Hillary Clinton's election campaign and expected federal bailouts. They knew they could count on Mrs. Clinton. She has a great track record of rewarding her political donors. This is what the new administration will do. In the meantime, the scramble is on. The politicians in states that have been heavily supporting Paul, not because they have won over the hearts and minds of Peter, but rather because of the working class got tired of left. The politicos have to find ways on all their free programs. Cutting benefits will cause citizens to storm the palace. They must find ways to generate more revenue. It's the growing specter of state exit taxes as residents abandon high tax states. It is not legal for states to charge a true exit tax on citizens changing their residency from one state to another. This is not the case, which does charge a large exit tax. So what do high tax states do to try to prevent their residents from moving to low or no tax states? In a word, they audit them. When a taxpayer is audited, the agency issues an assessment for unpaid taxes until proven guilty. You must prove they are wrong or the assessment stands. Once you intend to leave, you to the politicos. Do not have the means to go to court. For some, it becomes government shakedown to extract as much wealth as they can door. What about Cal Exit? With the mindset of California voters, happen. I don't recommend holding on to California government debt, including holdings in bond funds of secession may be small. Establish their own currency and try to renegotiate their debt. Holding California debt is an unnecessary risk to take with retirement money. Should they vote to secede, Californians would face a choice of leaving or staying. If you chose to leave, expect a hefty exit tax. If you're thinking about leaving, why wait? Walk quietly and beat the rush. The next article that we have is off of Zero Hedge. And I'm waiting for the hamster. Well, while we wait for the hamster, I'll just remind you that at 8 o'clock tonight, here on Friday evening, we will do the weekend review with the chat room. You're welcome to join in, and I don't know what we'll talk about. I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm still trying to get through this show. Uh, and one show at a time. Okay, here it goes. Zero Hedge. 7 murders in Chicago's deadliest day as Trump tweets totally out of control. The most violent day of 2017 for folks living in Chicago as the city recorded at least 13 shootings and 7 homicides. Chicago Tribune killed just over a 2-hour period, including a woman who was 8 months pregnant. Meanwhile, the violent Wednesday night brought total shootings for the year to 495 homicides. Of course, Trump has been persistent on his threats to send in the feds if Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel fails to fix the horrible carnage going on in his streets. Earlier this evening, Trump, on the latest spike of violence, roll up here, I'll tell you what he had to say about it. 7 people shot and killed yesterday in Chicago. What's going on there? Totally out of control. Chicago needs help. It says, of course, this latest Trump tweet mimics similar messages sent last month when he said, if Chicago doesn't fix the going on, 228 shootings in 2017 with 48 killings, up 24% from 2016, I'll send in the feds. Get it to scroll up a little bit more here. From Hey Jackass, Wednesday marked the deadliest day in Chicago since Christmas Day last year when the city recorded 8 homicides. And there's a graph here up to see that. And I'm trying to get the hamster running in the wheel. In 2017, year-to-date homicides have officially exceeded the violent 2016 pace and looks set to surpass 100 for just the first 2 months of the year. And there's another graph. Just like in 20, violence continues to be heavily concentrated in just a handful of neighborhoods. The Harrison Police District on the west side has seen compared to 12 this time last year, according to data. The Austin District, also on the west side, is close behind with 11 homicides. Last year, it wasn't even among the top 5 at this time, Tribune data shows. Districts are Ogden on the near west side, Wood on the south side 9, and Calumet on the south side 6. The near north district had no homicides this time last year, but has recorded 2 this year, according to Tribune data. And there's a map here that shows where all this carnage is taking place. And I'm trying to get the hamster moving. Come on, buddy. Come on. A little bit more. Okay, looks like that's the end of the article. All right, the next one that we have here, and get to the next one. It's off of the gatewaypundit.com. And I'm waiting for hamster. Come on. Put this feller on a time clock or something. Come on, hamster. Put it up here on the page for me. Okay, maybe he's just going to take his time with that one. We'll let's see if the next one will pop up here. I'll come back to that one. Well, I see that there may be a new hamster in my future. This little guy, he's just wearing out. Poor little fella. And one eye. Here we go. Liberty Writers News. We'll do this one. Trump just stood up for every Jew in America with speech that will send chills down your spine. A man of the people. He will fight for and protect all Americans. You can bet when he heard about the bomb threats against Jewish communities, he was quick to stand up and say no more. He gave an amazing speech about quality and perseverance at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, where he condemned all those horrific attacks against the Jews. He told the audience, the anti-Semitic threats targeting our Jewish communities and community centers are horrible and are painful and are very sad reminder of the work still be done to root out hate and prejudice and evil. And there is video of that if you want to see that for yourself. It says, and Donald is not the only Trump taking a stand for the Jewish people of America. Last night, Ivanka defended she is Jewish in a moving tweet. She says, America is a nation built on principle of religious tolerance. We must protect our houses of worship and religious centers. Understand all this Trump is anti-Semitic nonsense. The liberals quit viewing. He defends Israel. His daughter and his grandkids are both Jewish. The man has not done anything anti-Semitic. So I say all of us need to rally around the president and help him fight to end anti-Semitic threats against Jews and protect the rights of all Americans. This is our country. Be ready to defend it. Article here is off of BizPac Review, and it says President Trump ponders funneling billions into private schools for the working class. President Donald Trump administration is thinking about conducting a national tax credit scholarship initiative that would provide working class families with billions of dollars so their children could attend private schools. Trump stated that he wants every single disadvantaged child in America, no matter what their background or where they live, to have a choice about where they go to school, while speaking at the White House with teachers and parents. The faction has called Trump's tax idea a veiled voucher program that would deprive already struggling public schools of critical tax money. Meanwhile, conservatives are concerned that Trump's plan would result in more federal intervention and force a kind of standardization for schools previously influenced by nonprofit groups, religious denominations. The prospective tax credit initiative could be included on a more substantial tax reform bill that has been delayed by pending Obamacare repeal. The article is also off of BizPac Review. EPA chief releases more than 7,000 emails to Soros-funded group. The group released thousands of emails Wednesday showing President Donald Trump's EPA chief shared communications with energy groups during his time as Oklahoma's Attorney General. And Democracy, called the CMD, a liberal watchdog group with financial ties to billionaire George Soros, released emails showing Scott Pruitt's office communicated on several occasions. Page jumped, hang on. With fossil fuel companies like Devon Energy earlier in February, CMD sued to have emails released after it claimed the Oklahoma Republicans stonewalled information requests for 2 years. The newly released emails reveal a close and friendly relationship with its office and the fossil fuel industry. Director at CMD wrote in a statement on Wednesday. 2013 showed that various groups reached out to thank Pruitt's office for engaging in cuffs with former President Barack Obama's environmental agenda. An executive at Americans for Prosperity, for instance, sent the former Attorney General an email thanking him, bosses, and all they are against President Obama's EPA and its axis with groups to increase energy costs for Oklahomans and American families across the states. Kate Pruitt has kept lines of communication open between his office and energy companies like Devon Energy. Of Public Policy, Brent Rockwood, wrote in 2013 email to Oklahoma's Attorney General office that team had taken another review of a letter Pruitt wrote about the Bureau of Land Management regulations and suggested including footnotes to source the quotes and legal arguments. Thanks for putting the Attorney General's letter into action, and I think that this letter will make a strong statement and a real difference. Devon said in the email to Pruitt's office, do you think that we will get any Democrats to sign the letter? Also, when you finalize the document and send it out, can I please get a copy for my records? 7,564 pages of emails on battle in Congress over whether Pruitt should lead Trump's EPA. He eventually won confirmation 52-46 last week, despite fierce Democratic opposition. Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota and Joe Manchin of West Virginia and voted in favor of Pruitt to head the agency. Their support came even after their colleagues, the Oklahoma Attorney General, a climate denier who will do the bidding of big oil. CMD, for its part, counts the Rockefeller Family Foundation and Soros Open Society Foundation among its donors. Received more than $160,000 in 2011 for research purposes from Progressive Tides Foundation. Also acknowledged on its website accepting donations from the Rockefeller Family Foundation, which has worked for months backing Attorney General-led efforts to investigate Exxon's climate research. Was off of Conservative Tribune. 214 Inauguration Day rioters have now been indicted. At least 214 rioters who attempted to disrupt the inauguration of President Donald Trump last month in Washington have been indicted on felony rioting charges and face up to a decade in prison. According to CNN, the indictment against these accused them of having committed violent and destructive acts by, as examples, assaulting a limousine driver, vandalizing local businesses, and even destroying a government vehicle. The indictment also accused the rioters of using a tactic known as black bloc. Rioters attempt to conceal their identities by donning black clothes and accessories such as sunglasses, helmets, masks, and scarves, etc. Below is a video from Inauguration Day that shows black bloc mob in downtown DC. And there's a tweet here that says, tear gas, cops, and riot foot and protesters breaking windows. Like this. Idiots, obviously. And there is the video if you want to pull that up to view that. Continues, it says the video below is even worse. It shows an innocent man being attacked for trying to put out a fire started by the rioters. It was noted last month by the Washington Post these were not just random knuckleheads, though. They were well organized and perhaps even well paid goons by Disrupt J20, Post described as a collection of anti-capitalist, anti-fascist groups rooted in the district and elsewhere that organized the protest. What they were not was happy. Should have been more violence yesterday. One of those arrested, identified as Tom Massey, told the Post after the inauguration. Massey added that he hoped the next round of demonstrations would be more successful. Punch a Nazi, he said. I didn't get to do that yesterday. The police stopped me. Oh, the Inauguration Day rioters may very well get a chance to punch a Nazi thug or white supremacist or even an MS-13 gang member when they arrive in federal prison. Of course, unlike innocent Trump supporters, tend to punch back with devastating intensity. Good luck, kids. You're going to need it. Now, let's go back to this article and see if it'll load up this time. All right, one more here. Give it a whack. And that little hamster in that wheel. We'll bring it up now. I know it'll work. I had it up a while ago. Run, little hamster, run. Okay, here we go. Amazing. Trump cuts U.S. debt by $12 billion in his first month. And let's see if we can get it to scroll up. We got it that far. 20th, the U.S. debt stood at, well, it's still here, 19 point, I think that's point, $19.947 billion. More than that, but that's what they're saying. It says on February 21st, a month later, the U.S. debt load $135 billion. Trump cut the U.S. debt burden by $12 billion and 1% in his first month in office. Trillions, but I guess I could be wrong. Under President Obama, debt burden increased by more than $200 billion in his first month in office. Obama increased the U.S. debt by 2% in his first month and signed the trillion-dollar stimulus bill, which is widely considered a colossal failure and waste of U.S. tax dollars as well. The failed stimulus did not kick in Obama's first year deficit of $4 trillion, doubled the U.S. debt during his presidency and set records for highest deficits debt increase by any president ever. I guess that's what I had confused, the difference between the deficit and the my mind's drawing a blank here, and the debt. There we go. And there's a chart here, spending. And you just scroll up a little bit more. Okay, yeah, that was pretty much the end of that. It ends up with the Trump stock market is up and debt is down. Winning, winning, winning. You have that. The next one's off BizPac Review. And it says, an eye for an eye. New Arizona law will hit where it hurts. Arizona protesters beware. Keep your demonstrations peaceful and be ready to pay dearly. In response to claims that people are being paid to riot, the Arizona Senate approved a bill this week that expands the state's racketeering statutes, organized crime, to include rioting and provides for asset forfeiture to pay for damages caused by rioting. 1142 also redefines rioting to include any actions that result in the damage to property belonging to others, according to Arizona Capitol Times, to express themselves as a group during a time of turmoil, controversy, during a time of high emotions. That's exactly when people gather as a community. Senator Martin, a Democrat from Phoenix, said. Sometimes they scream, sometimes they do. But what has many worried about the legislation is its guilt by association aspect. The Everyone who took part in the demonstration can be seized, whether they contributed to the damages or not. Their concern to Tucson Democrat Senator Steve Farley actually destroyed the property may not even be connected to the demonstration. Senator John Kavanaugh dismissed Quezada's fear that SB 1142 may have a chilling effect on the First Amendment rights of on First Amendment rights of speech and assembly, claiming that it's directed at a specific group of individuals. You now have a situation where you have full-time, almost professional agent provocateurs that attempt to create public disorder, the Republican said. A lot of them are, some of them are anarchists, Kavanaugh continued, but this stuff is all planned. That worries some lawmakers by including rioting within a legal definition. Law enforcement would have the ability to arrest event organizers during the planning of some demonstrations. But that didn't appear to concern Kavanaugh during the recent debate. Right before it starts, Kavanaugh, a former police officer, asked his colleagues on the Senate floor, do you really want to wait until people are injuring each other, throwing Molotov cocktails, picking up barricades and smashing them through business downtown Phoenix? Recent events following President Donald Trump's inauguration prompted Senator Sylvia Allen to agree with Kavanaugh. I have been heartsick with what's going on in our country. People are being encouraged to do, the snowflake Republican said. In jail, somebody pays to get them out, she said. There has to be something to deter them from that. Fox and Friends reported on the bill, calling it an eye for an eye, agreed with its intent. And there's a bunch of tweets here after this if you want to take a look at those. Articles off Liberty Writers. Bunch of scumbags. Maxine Waters ripped off her mask and exposed who she really is. And there's some video in that if you want to pull it up and watch it. It says far to left, Waters, Democratic California, has taken on the role of being the spokesperson for the Democratic Party since the November election. He's totally losing it, right? To call Trump and his administration a bunch of scumbags. Says, I just think the American people need to know what's going on. This is a bunch of scumbags. That is what they are, organized around making money. Can you believe she's an actual member of Congress? Those are very strong words, y'all. Democrats have become so disgusting. It says, if you think Maxine Waters is not fit to be in office, then give this video a share. These Democrats are such a disgrace and need to lose their seats. Let's vote them out. Patriots in 2020. Look back like. The next article is off Conservative Tribune. Congressman admits Dems are taking black voters for granted. 2016 presidential election, Democrats have been doing some soul searching, trying to figure out why they lost so badly across the board. Democrat Missouri Representative Emmanuel Cleaver went on MSNBC on Monday and explained that he believes the Democratic Party is taking the African American vote for granted. Democrats that either were pushed out or slipped out of our ranks in the last election this past November are people with whom we have common values, he stated. The Democratic Party had failed miserably with rural America, stating that rural America and urban America have similar problems that Democrats should have talked about. I think some of them, we didn't have an inspirational or aspirational election. With African Americans, the Democrats are making a very, very serious mistake. And many of us have told them over and over again when we say, you take African Americans for granted, and they do. And I think that's going to come back and hurt them in the long run, he said. Nice that some Democrats are finally realizing how badly they have screwed up for years. It may be too late to actually do anything about this. And you can watch his full comments in a video in this if you want to pull it up and watch it. Trump has promised to turn things around for African Americans in this country. Actually follow through on his promises. In 4 years, things have gotten better in the inner cities. African Americans may abandon the Democratic Party and become Republican voters, or at least roughly, or at least enough of them to destroy the monolithic black vote Democrats have depended on for decades. For years, all Democrats have done is say that African Americans are treated unfairly, made empty promises about improving their lives, and then done absolutely nothing to follow through on those promises to help African Americans across America. And so far, at least, it seems intent on keeping his campaign promises. When he follows through on that one, the Democratic Party is going to be devastated. That I have for you is off of Town Hall, and it says straightforward, fascist, maybe violent end game. Its media serfs and Social Justice Incorporated are all outraged because are again presuming the rule or to rule ourselves, and their agony is delightful. Less delightful is how, in the process of trying to claw their way back into power, they are incinerating the norms and rules of political order. That's stuff Hillary babbled about honoring the legitimacy of elections. Yeah, no. Invisible asterisk, only liberals can see that explains that the norms and the rules are void when liberals lose. So where does the crisis end? I just want it to end with us silenced and subservient forever, toiling to pay taxes, tribute to their clients as they pick at, poke, and torment us. You look at the things Trump stands for, and all of them are about lifting the yoke off of us, cutting taxes, slashing regulations, guaranteeing the Second Amendment, protecting our religious liberty, and safeguarding us illegals. But everything the liberals want, everything Hillary ran on, is about clamping the yoke ever tighter around our necks, raising taxes, issuing more legislations, disarming us, limiting our religious freedom, and putting us back at risk and alien criminals. The whole leftist platform is about putting us down and keeping us down. They will do if they take power again. They are certainly not going to risk us ever being able to repeat November's rejection. It lays out their tyrannical roadmap. When the Democrats took power here, they reformed the election laws to lock in their party, co-opted the nonpartisan redistricting process, and changed the ballot initiative system to make sure we will never see another unapproved proposition. They ensured there is no way to stop illegal aliens from voting because they want illegal aliens voting. But even that's not enough. The state government chose to allow its unofficial cat's paw to intimidate and beat dissenters at UC Berkeley. In class wanted the things to prevail. It was a lesson to its opponents. Novel People's Republic about post-freedom California was an action thriller, not the first draft of future history, and I was wrong. Do you think Hillary Clinton or whatever aspiring Hugo Chavez they offer up next is going to protect us from violent leftist thugs or encourage them? Obama weaponizing agencies like the IRS like the IRS against conservatives, multiply that by 1,000. Think about the hate speech rules used to silence conservatives on campus. Imagine them as federal law that's coming just like in Europe. In France to speak out against abortion. Do you imagine leftists don't dream of doing that? Once back in power, they will ensure we will never be able to challenge their rule. Woman or other, one vote, one more time, then never again. How will they do it? This massive resistance campaign against everything Donald Trump has done, and a lot he hasn't done, is one way. The media's liberal advocacy and tsunami of fake news is another. The press is now just one more political player campaigning to restore the establishment. The same liars who fantasize about Trump silencing critics will cheer as the next Democrat commandant. Remember how they said nothing voted to repeal the First Amendment so Congress could control speech during the elections? And they think they're winning. A CNN commentator perfectly left combination of utter cluelessness and utter certainty in its own moral superiority. Bottomless well of stupidity, she recently became infamous for saying about what happens. Straightforward from here was her quote. Her scenario starts with step 1, impeach Trump and Pence, ends with step 6, President Hillary. Thanks to a constitutional process she created herself by blending ignorance, fascism, and wanting. Overlooked step 2.5, where several dozen million Americans defended the Constitution by taking out their black rivals and saying, oh, hell no. I assume the patriots determined to protect the Union would be confronted for short by a pro-coup hipster army, locked and loaded with vinyl LPs, participation trophies, and unearned self-regard. Not to believe that for these seditious Democrats, the second time will be a charm. But this amusing idiocy highlights a much more frightening possibility. Dennis Prager has written that America is locked in the second Civil War already, albeit a cold one, of the absolute rejection by the left of any legitimacy of grievances or the right to participate in governing this country of the tens of millions of red Americans. It's reasonable to wonder how this can actually end peacefully. You see it read, try this again. You read it on social media. You hear it whispered. Are the wounds to our body politics so deep they can't be healed? I recently polled people on Twitter about what they thought of the chances of serious violence in the coming 4 years, and the results, 159 people, are alarming. Stop being a nut. I was hoping about 95%. Well, we'll wise up and find a way out of this crisis. I got 13%. But 50 may try violence. Got a stunning 41%, while it's coming, gear up, got a terrifying 36%. So 77% of the respondents fear serious violence during Trump's first term. That's scary, especially since it is not unprecedented in history. Just reflect on the low-grade insurgency of the American left undertook in the 1970s, with more bloodshed than most people remember, and consider how today the left has significantly more cultural, institutional, and media support. The reality is potential for this to get out of control, way out of control, especially considering the likelihood that the leftist violence would be met in kind. That 77% indicates that the red side is, as the left loves to say, red. And the red people have the guns and training should things degenerate into serious chaos. There is a powder keg. And leftist fools who do not understand the danger are figuratively standing around it, firing up. Now understand that we'll meet this column with the slander that I, and by extension you, hope for violence. Comments and check out the idiots, no doubt, infesting my Twitter feed. You'll see plenty of such lies. Actually, another of my several pleas for sanity and peace, including in my book's preface. But the left's favorite tactic is to deny substantial truth in favor of narrative, what I and you actually believe is relevant. This infuriating tactic makes reasoned discussion and argument impossible anymore, which itself makes violence more likely since it forecloses the method of peacefully resolving disagreements. You can't argue if you can't even speak. There's only one way to be heard. The left's combination of evil and stupidity is the driver straight forward from here, understanding that they hate us. We need to accept that there may be no easy return to peaceful coexistence. Our goal, Trump, was to remove the left's hand from our throat, not to put our hand around blue people's collective windpipes. We don't care how they live their lives, but leftists care very much how we live ours. Lock both hands around our throat and squeeze until we submit to leftist tyranny or die. It's hard to see how we compromise. Do we just somewhat submit or only die a little? It has to culminate somehow. It could end peacefully with a return to the old norms and reasoned ideas, but it seems no one is interested in that. Instead, one side has to win decisively and one side has to lose decisively. If so, I say we win and they lose, since I'm not ready to submit or die. How about you? The next article I have for you is off of 100%fedup.com. Holy smokes. Nancy Pelosi orders people to clap, repeats words, then calls John Kasich of Illinois. And there's video in this if you want to actually see this for yourself, because I can't make this up. An appearance at Families USA to speak out about Obamacare. The poorest are infants and children. Retire already. This is yet another example of the lack of decorum with this woman and with others like Maxine Waters. So if you want to see the videos on her making a fool out of herself, my God. The next one here is off of Liberty Writers News, and it says, oh my, what Nikki Haley just did to the United Nations has Trump cheering like crazy. Issued a scathing criticism of the UN Security Council. She really tore them apart. She went after them for their obvious bias. I have to admit, it was a bit strange, Haley said. The former South Carolina governor said that the UN Security Council's mission is to discuss the various ways to make peace, and Roger absolute into them in this video going viral. And the video is right there in that. It says Haley says that she's new to the UN and understands that that's how the council has operated for decades. She says that the US is not going to operate this way anymore. I'm here to say the United States will not turn a blind eye, said Haley. I am here to underscore the ironclad support of the United States for Israel. I'm here to emphasize the United States is determined to stand up to the UN's anti-Israel bias. To Israel. Isn't that awesome? How different is that than our last president? Obama hated Israel. Trump doesn't. God has blessed Trump to restore the world. Share this article. The next one and final one is one that I can't make this stuff up. It's off of TruthFeed, and it says, new website allows liberals to pretend Hillary won the election. I thought this was a good one to take Friday's morning show out on. Wow. In a last-ditch effort to appease the feelings of delicate liberal snowflakes, a new fake news website has cropped up that allows liberals to pretend that Hillary won the election. Refuge from reality now have a fake news website where they can pretend to live in a world where Hillary Clinton is president. Approval ratings for President Clinton hit 89%. Confused by fake news, Trump is president, and DOJ considers charging Trump with treason, are just a few headlines featured on HillaryBeatTrump.org, news site devoted to covering stories from an alternative universe where Hillary won last November's election. In the midst of constitutional crisis, this is our response, the site's description reads. True President Hillary Rodham Clinton. The site's proprietors do not identify themselves online and did not return the DC's request for comment, but their article suggests that they have liberal leanings. The site's articles single out prominent Republicans like Texas Senator Ted Cruz and White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer for mockery. My goodness. Well, with that said, I think we'll just close it out. Don't forget the show tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. That's Eastern Time. Be a live show. Chat room will be open. Knows what we'll talk about. I'm liable to do anything. We'll see you then. And if you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to let me know. Put it on your social media so everybody gets to be entertained. Because there's not many channels that do what I do. Oh, if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. That way you'll stay informed as well as entertained. And we'll see you tonight.